been able to offer, and this is just one portion of what the GRAIN Project is able to do here in the community. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Santa Ana, but serving all of Orange County, and our mission is to promote unified, healthy, sustainable communities. And we pursue our mission through collaborative and empowering programs and activities in urban agriculture and public art. And we've been able to partner with the City of Santa Ana, and through funding that the GRAIN Project received, we've been able to offer some workshops to local school teachers and administrators and parents and community volunteers that are working to either begin, establish, or enhance a school garden.
A lot about gardening that you can do on the cheap, but there's a few things that I think that are really important to actually spend some money on, because it has, it's important not to mess with chemicals, for sure, when you're doing organic gardening, and kids and seniors and anyone is eating from your garden. I have a printout of what it looks like when you get your soil tested. You just take a little scoop from the area, and this is if you're going to do in the ground. And so that's what we did over at Jerome Parks. And so we took a bunch of samples from around the whole space, and they go through a very extensive analysis of the soil, and they'll send back a report: how much lead, how much cadmium, how much this or that. And so if you're going to be growing in the ground, especially in Orange County, especially in Santa Ana, unfortunately in these places that have a lot of pollution, it's really important to spend the money, if you have it, on testing your soil for the different toxins. So one of the reasons why raised beds are really popular is because you can kind of surpass that step if you're going to be buying organic soil and building what's called a raised bed, and we have a mobile version outside, and so you don't need to do the soil testing necessarily if you're going to be starting with a raised bed and just putting in organic soil from the get-go.
This is one option. I believe we talked about this the other day, that if you don't have a lot of space where you are, and one of the benefits of having a mobile raised bed on wheels is that if your particular space doesn't have a lot of sun, then you can move your mobile raised bed throughout the day where the sun is hitting. This is a great thing to use if your community that you're working with are seniors, or have difficulty bending over for whatever reason. And of course, for kids, it's good because it's at their eye level. And again, we talked about this the other day, that how important it is for you to have good soil. You can just use this very simple test that will show you. There's little papers that you'll dip in, and it'll tell you your different ratios in the soil that you're using.
I have wanting to learn how to be a gardener for my own garden. Also, I hope to inspire other people in the neighborhood for gardening and the flowers, and particularly the food. It teaches where the food comes from, how we can garden and sustain ourselves. Also how to beautify the neighborhood and feed the neighborhood in itself. And it's a community working together to beautify the park in itself. So I'm looking forward to that, and then I'm looking forward for the community to work together as neighbors. We need a project that brings us together in the community, and something that has been a pride for El Salvador Park.
Little compact thing. You want to break some of the roots. You just want to break a little bit very gently. So once they've broken, once you transplant them and you pack it down, the roots will send out, they'll try to establish themselves in the new space. And so if you just dig a little hole, plant it in, and then you want to cover it up around and then push it down and make it compact. I mentioned before the sensory garden. So you might choose to have a bed that is just herbs, and so it's that you could use for just spices or herbs and cooking, but also to have
kids take the time, or anyone take the time to go around and smell each one, taste each one, and think about other ways to use it.
It's exciting because we're able to interact now with the garden here at our school that will be introducing students to fresh fruit and vegetables and how they grow. And I was a part of Network for Healthy California, so I have some experience with fruit and vegetables.
Exactly. And so see how you've made a flat. It feels awkward at first, but if you just practice this and you watch those chef shows, or if you know a chef, they're like, and they can do it really fast, and so it feels really awkward at first. And then it's good to cut down and away. Down and away, like that. Exactly.
So you're down and away. And it actually cuts it really sharply and easily. There you go. And it takes a little bit of practice too.
It highlights what grade level is appropriate for the certain lesson and what subjects are being taught through the lesson. And so it's great because there's all these resources that are already, everything's already fleshed out for you. So you don't have to do as much work as I think people had to do 10, 15 years ago before school gardens and gardens in general were really, focused on.
In my instruction, I will be using fruit and vegetables and how they apply to math and science and the Common Core, which we're doing. So I think a lot of hands-on activities are going to really help students understand the value of fruit and vegetables and how healthy they are, and how to try new things instead of the same fruit and vegetables that they usually eat. So I think there'll be more access to them, and I think they will be very excited to do activities with fruit and vegetables.
What the intent was is that her students, science class, health class, would come out here during the school time. The gate would be open. They would go do their, whether if it's earth, or science or specific science, they go out there. They do a lesson developed by the teachers that they can go out there hands-on, and they use it in different classes, different periods throughout the day. We're actually going to have the kids start going in, seeing it, kind of touching it, kind of see what it's all about. Because she says that the interest has been there, but the kids haven't gone in there because we still haven't developed a plan.
Growing potatoes are really easy and really fun, and it's a simple lesson. You just take a potato, and it has what they call the eyes growing out of it. You just cut up the potato in the different sections, so then you can actually plant that little piece that has the eye. And then you can actually grow potatoes in a small container once the plant gets much more full, and also once you hit your limit of perhaps your planter, then you actually go in, and some people just dump the whole thing over, but you can also just reach in, and the kids love to search for the potatoes. And of course, you want to collect your harvest, document, take pictures of the whole process, because it's really fun and exciting.
We're excited, and because of all the opportunities that will be afforded to our students, and we're really looking forward to how we can apply it to our own instruction, science instruction. And not only that, it's about healthy and nutritious eating, and we can definitely encourage that by having a garden and teaching the lessons that are tied to that.
So we were just talking about getting kids visiting and looking at that, and then later working on the development of the lessons. We already started looking, as you know, California is going through new standards. We started looking at the new California standards for science and how those tie into the instruction that we're doing in the classroom, which is being used. So it's one step at a time. It's a learning process, but I know our staff wants to take full benefit of it. Our kids deserve that. But we're working in collaboration, like we said, with the city and the neighborhood, so that we can all win and we can all walk away, with a good thing out of this.
And then making the signs for your garden. And so they start learning, carrots are high in vitamin A, or kale is high in iron. And these are great signs, they show how to pick and wash, and what are the different steps for harvesting. This is quite an intricate whiteboard sign. Yeah, so these ones are just different letters of the alphabet, and so then depending on what you're planting, you can rearrange them. Something in the Jerome Garden, we went through all this trouble of having our kids that we were working with create all these great signs, but with, you know, quickly something else was put there, and then suddenly the signs weren't accurate.
Santa Ana residents, I have found, are actually among the more sustainable community members in the county. There's many people in the community that recycle and repurpose and reuse a lot of materials already. So that's really great, because there's a lot of green families, if you will, that are already doing sustainable practices in their day-to-day living. But also, we encourage, if possible, if you have the space and you can also do a little bit even in small spaces, we encourage people to garden. And even if that means just one tomato plant in a pot, or you can hang it from a balcony or a patio, or if you have more space, you could begin a garden in your backyard or front yard. We definitely promote food, not lawns, and planting food and native plants in front yards instead of the wasteful lawns and grasses that don't necessarily provide any sort of resource for the community. We also encourage people to compost, and you can do so pretty simply through vermicomposting, which is a relatively small-sized operation that you can do just in a bucket underneath your kitchen sink, and you have worms that can eat your day-to-day food scraps, and then that provides some really high nutrient-rich worm castings that you can then use in your garden to help enhance your garden yield and the nutrition content in the food that you're growing in your garden.
Always throughout, if you are composting, then your soil, even if there are toxins that are coming in from the air, and because even though we have the organic garden at Jerome Park, the city still sprays the grass nearby and uses chemical fertilizers nearby, so that eventually, with wind and whatnot, will contaminate the soil in the Jerome Garden. So we continually compost like crazy, because compost will eventually break down a lot of the toxins in the soil. So I would really encourage you to plan to have the composting as a part of your garden. It's a great learning tool to show people what the process of composting is. But if you have a small space, if you have issues where you cannot have rodents because of a school situation or whatnot, or you don't want it to smell, because composting, if you don't do it right, it can smell. The worm poop or the worm castings are what is going to be left over once they've eaten everything, and then they digest it. And then what's left over is the worm castings, and you can take a handful of it. It basically looks similar to, this is coffee grinds that I got from a coffee shop. So basically it'll look similar to this, and then you would take this and sprinkle it all over your garden. You can just do it on the top layer, and then when you water later, it'll start to break it down and soak it. And you can do this. You don't have to have a worm tower like this. I mean, this is helpful because you can take off the different layers and show kids. It's a great teaching tool. But you can actually just have a worm bin like this in a bucket underneath your kitchen sink. And you don't have to get fancy with it. You can. And there's people who build their own boxes just out of a plastic box.
These particular, the Creating and Sustaining Your School Garden and the Garden Enhanced Nutrition Education workshops are specifically geared towards training the trainers. So the people who are going to be turning around and teaching youth and community members. So it's been really great because the City of Santa Ana and Parks and Recreation and Community Services Agency specifically has really shown a lot of interest and support and food access and more gardens for Santa Ana. So we're all really excited about the momentum and we're grateful for the opportunity to have launched the Jerome Community Learning Garden. So little by little, there's a patchwork and ecosystem that's forming in Santa Ana, a patchwork of gardens, and little by little, our various partners and individuals on their own and others are coming together, and hopefully we continue to collaborate and form partnerships. We really promote how many people may or may not consider themselves teachers, but that we all have a lot to learn and we all have a lot to teach, and so that's something that moving forward I'm excited at this momentum, and I'm looking forward to what lies ahead in terms of continuing to connect with our fellow agencies and organizations and groups and teachers and parents and individuals, and really focus on continuing to grow the good.